The Kanishka Stupa was a monumental stupa established by the Kushan king Kanishka during the 2nd century CE in today's Shaджи-ки-Дхери on the outskirts of Peshawar, Pakistan. The stupa was built during the Kushan era to house Buddhist relics and was among the tallest buildings in the ancient world. The stupa is also famous for its Buddhist relics, which were transferred to the U Handi Hall at Mandalay Hill, in Mandalay, Burma after their discovery. According to Buddhists, the building of the stupa was foretold by the Buddha. The original Kushan stone stupa was probably built after the death of Kanishka the Great, between 150 and 300 CE, but probably circa 151 CE, with a shape similar to the contemporary Loria Tangai stupas and the addition of schist reliefs. The stupa was rebuilt under Kushan rule in the 4th century CE into a cruciform stupa with a tower-like structure, with 4 staircases and 4 corner bastions, and possibly pillars at each corner. The stupa's symmetrically cross-shaped plinth measured 175 feet, though the plinth had large staircases at each of the stupa's sides. In total, the base of the stupa may have spanned 272 feet on each side. The plinth was lightly decorated with sculpted reliefs, while niches built into the dome's 4 cardinal points was inlaid with precious stone. The tall wooden superstructure was built atop a decorated stone base and crowned with a 13-layer copper-gilded chhatra. Modern estimations suggest that the stupa had a height of 400 feet. The stupa's wooden superstructure was rebuilt atop the stone base and crowned with a 13-layer copper-gilded chhatra. In the 5th century CE, stucco imagery was probably added to the site, in keeping with contemporary popularity for Buddhist imagery. Sagyu noted in the early 6th century that the tower had been struck by lightning at least 3 times, having been rebuilt after each strike. The tall stupa with a copper top acted as a lightning rod. This propensity to attract lightning strikes may explain the dearth of any surviving examples of wooden tower stupas. In 726 CE, the Korean pilgrim Hayeko visited Gandhara and saw the Kanishka monastery and stupa, of which he said in his memoir of the pilgrimage to the 5 kingdoms of India, the monastery is called Kanishka. There is a great stupa which constantly glows. The monastery and the stupa were built by the former king Kanishka. The stupa was discovered and excavated in 1908 to 1909 by British archaeological mission under David Brainerd Spooner, and led to the discovery in its base of the Kanishka casket, a 6-sided rock crystal reliquary containing 3 small fragments of bone, relics of the Buddha which were transferred to Mandalay, Burma, and a dedication in Kharoshthi involving Kanishka. In the 400 CE, the Chinese Buddhist pilgrim Faxin visited the structure and described it as the highest of all the towers in the terrestrial world, which ancient travelers claimed was up to 560 feet tall, though modern estimates suggest a height of 400 feet. In 520 CE, Sagyu describes the stupa in the following terms. The king proceeded to widen the foundation of the great tower 300 paces and more. To crown all, he placed a roof pole upright and even. Throughout the building he used ornamental wood. He constructed stairs to lead to the top. There was an iron pillar, 3 feet high with 13 gilded circlets. Altogether the height from the ground was 700 feet. The stupa is believed to have influenced later constructions of tower stupas throughout ancient Turkestan. The construction of wooden towers topped with metal chhatras made such buildings act as lightning rods, which could explain why such towers have all but disappeared. The site has not been preserved. This Buddhist site is located on Jolian Road on the south, on Pipplan Road, surrounded by Pipplan Hills on south, southwest, and by agricultural fields on north and south. There is a courtyard to the east of a monastery comprising an open quadrangle in the center with ranges of cells on its 4 sides. In the middle of the courtyard is the basement of a square stupa facing north, and close beside it the ruins of 4 other round and smaller stupas, all constructed of diaper masonry. The monastery is built of heavy semi-ashlar masonry and is well preserved. This monastery is smaller in scale, but its plan is generally similar to that of the monasteries of Jolyon and Mohara Mordu. It comprises a court of monks' cells on the north, with a hall of assembly, kitchen and refectory on the south, and the stupa court to the east. Similarly, the assembly hall, kitchen and refectory also resemble the corresponding chambers at Mohara Muradu and Jolyon. The overlapping walls suggest of different periods of constructions here. The monastery court proper is located on the south and originally contained double stories monk cells, as suggested by a flight of stone steps at the side of the passage leading to the kitchen and the assembly hall, and consisted of an open quadrangle with monk cells on its four sides and a broad-pillared veranda, 2 stories high, in front of them. In the center of the court was a small rectangular depression about 30 centimeters in depth and paved with stone that served as the water tank, accumulating rainwater from the roof of the cells and the verandas. There are in all 12 cells on the ground floor. According to Marshall, one cell on the eastern side served as an entrance lobby, from which a double flight of steps descended to the court of stupas on the east. In another cell at the southeast corner was found a fine example of a stupa in almost as perfect preservation. This stupa and the cell in which it stands are 2.5 feet below of the rest of the monastery, which Marshall thought belonged to an early phase of construction. This stupa is a little less than 2.5 meters in height and rises in 3 diminishing tiers, the topmost surmounted by a dome and originally crowned by an umbrella, many pieces of which were found lying at its side by Marshall during excavations. Marshall had also observed that the lowest tier was once decorated with a series of Ionic pilasters alternating with lotus rosettes, but the Ionic pilasters were afterwards covered up by a coating of plaster and replaced by somewhat coarser pilasters of the Corinthian order. According to Marshall, the second tier is plain save for the figure of a Dhyani Buddha on the north side. At the base of the dome was a series of 8 seated Buddha, of which 2 on the south side are still partially preserved. Marshall also noted traces of gold, red and black paint on the monument at the time of its excavation. Originally, the stupa cell was entered through a doorway opening from the courtyard, but this doorway was subsequently blocked up and replaced by a window at the higher level. Outside this monastery on the north side is another small stupa built of diaper masonry and enclosed by a wall of semi-ashlar work forming an ambulatory passage around it. The stupa court contains stupas in the open quadrangle, with one small stupa near the northeast corner of this court, resting on the foundations of the cells of the early monastery, is also visible. The main stupa court is located on the north of the complex and contains the stupa with its plinth only surviving, while there are 3 votive stupas in the north-northwest corner and another big stupa with surviving plinth located in the northwest corner. Stairs to the Ain stupa are from the west and to that in the northwest corner from the south. There is an access to the monastery from this court from north through a staircase of 6 steps. There are chapels on all sides and a tank on east in the court. The stupa is located in the village of Shingardar, a village between Ghalege and Barikot. This stupa is a remnant of Buddhist era and is one of the thousands ancient monuments in Swat Valley. According to some people, it is the biggest stupa in the subcontinent. It was built by Uttarsena, an ancient king of Swat, to enshrine his share of the relics of Buddha. The building of stupa is made of large stones and layers of thin slate. On the way to Mingora there is a statue of Buddha sculptured in a rock on the right side of GT Road. There are also some remnants in a cave beside this statue. The Shingardar stupa was identified by Colonel Dean and his daughter Stein during the British period. Nestled in the picturesque Swat Valley of Pakistan, the Shingardar stupa stands as a testament to the rich Buddhist heritage of the region. Believed to have been constructed during the 2nd century CE, this ancient structure served as a place of worship and meditation for Buddhist monks. With its imposing size and intricate architectural details, the stupa exudes a sense of serenity and spirituality. Surrounded by lush greenery and offering panoramic views of the surrounding mountains, It is a perfect spot for tranquility and reflection. Aper legend. This famous stupa built by King Uttarsena at the site where the white elephant holding the king's section of Buddha relic stood. When he got to the place, the elephant suddenly fell down and died and turned into a stone. Next to the rock, the king then erected the stupa. This Shingardar stupa myth is based on local customs. This tradition is preserved by Higham Stang, who visited Swat in the 7th century AD. It is said that when the elephant arrived at the site with Buddha's remains on his back, his body miraculously turned to stone after his death. It is said that the mountain peak, facing the main stupa to the north, depicts a small statue in it, which is visible only to the religious eye. G. Tuxi, however, does not agree with the identification and states that the stamp was not made by King Uttarsena. He places a mythical stupa somewhere near the Navai Kaliai about 500 feet north of the town of Kota. Originally, the Shingardar stupa's layout was square, but local villagers dismantled the weathered stones from the upper part and much of the internal stone around the platform to construct their homes and roads. The Shingardar stupa, situated in Barikot, Swat, is composed of a lower drum adorned with two cones, an upper drum, and a dome approximately 12 meters in length. These stones are primarily sizable, coated slabs of white stone interspersed with small columns of black fragments, along with direct packing between them. Some remnants of stucco plaster on the drum are still discernible. The lower drum, measuring 4.87 meters, features slender pilasters with flat brackets. The cornice above the lower drum is 0.60 meters in height and comprises a sunken layer of slabs, and above that, the ornamental section is fashioned from small slabs laid flat at their shorter edges. On the upper cornice, there is a shallow projection of around 0.50 meters, creating a play of light and shadow. Archaeologists have erected a stupa dome on the northwest side, a common practice in this region. Traces of a Buddhist settlement can be observed about 15 feet from the base of the stupa on its eastern and southern sides, now encroached upon by modern dwellings. The construction quality of these recent buildings is subpar and likely pertains to the monastery's construction. Given the stupa's significance, it is imperative, as mentioned earlier, to conduct excavations on this site to safeguard and conserve this historical monument.